on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
I feel like sometimes dentistry, once, has its cake and wants to eat it too, however that works. But I want to treat you, hygienist, as an hourly employee, but I also want you to be a loyal healthcare provider for our practice. And so I want to treat you one way, but I want you to act another way. So I was on salary, but then we had a monthly bonus. So if the office hit, a certain threshold number, we would be bonused. And that was, thousands of dollars a month that often ended up in our paycheck. And so that was, for me, really motivating to, maybe squeeze in those sealants that you're like, oh, I'm kind of tired. Like, I know I have 20 minutes, but I'll do them.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, episode number 468. My name is Andrew, and thank you so much for joining us for the very first episode of 2025. I am stoked about this month's lineup, and we're starting off really strong with an episode about hygienist pay and the idea of staying loyal to an office. And this is with Amanda Hill, and that it was actually her suggestion that we tackle this topic because, like probably what you're seeing, we see it all the time in the forums. This is a very hot topic right now. And it's hard with some of the allegations that have been made against hygienists that we are not loyal. But what are the compounding factors? Why are we being perceived that way and so forth? It was a very fascinating conversation, one that we actually had to break into two parts because it was so darn good. But yeah, she raised some really awfully important questions and maybe some potential concerns that we need to be looking at. Sometimes, it's kind of seeming like we're getting in our own way sometimes. And I really hope that it's just the space that I'm in right now with like the people that are in my circles and the things that I'm seeing, or maybe it's the algorithms that are kind of pointing things towards me that I'm paying attention to. But the people that I'm having conversations with, the things that I'm seeing, we all share a similar concern about the fate of our profession. I feel like I've said it several times in the last several months. And, I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but unfortunately, we're all kind of seeing it the same way with the concern that we have. Again, I really hope that I'm wrong. I just hope that it's like this algorithm-y thing that's going on. But the ADA, and there are several other organizations, are looking to change things in our profession. They are doing things to our profession, not in collaboration with us. These things will drastically diminish our responsibility, our education, our standing in the community. Things also might work out that makes us more obsolete. And this is being done in a way that we have never seen before at this level. I think that there's always been some kind of pushback, some give and take amongst the different organizations. But this is aggressive. It's mean-spirited. It's not really for the right reasons. They're just doing it because they can, because they have the power. The unfortunate part is that, probably over the last decade or so since I've been paying attention, our own leadership has constantly stuck their collective feet in their mouths, compounding the problem by being competitive, argumentative, isolationist, elitist, arrogant, and really cliquey. So this year, my plan is that we will be having these conversations that are hard to have, ones that the hygienists are going to support and love, and one that the hygienists are not going to necessarily love because we are doing things wrong and we just have to face the music in certain areas. And honestly, I love these types of conversations. I couldn't have asked for a better guest than Amanda to start these types of conversations off right in the new year. She, like we all, want us to not only survive what's coming our way, but we want to thrive in the face of these changes. But we, again, have to be honest about what is happening. We need everyone to step up and pitch in, even if it doesn't seem to matter, even if it's something local. You need to be a part of it. We need people to be selfless. We need people to be proactive. We need to come together. We still have a chance, in my opinion, at heading this off at the pass. but it's not going to be easy. So we really do need everyone to be involved in the profession more so than just going in, clocking out. I know I'm preaching to the choir. If you're listening to this dental podcast, like there's no chance probably that you're the part of the problem. You are probably part of the solution. But we need to get everyone else involved in our surroundings as well. So with that, I guess, dire note full of cliches and idioms, on to the episode with Amanda Hill.
A tale of two hygienists.
Listeners, welcome into this this episode. We're not really sure what it's going to be yet. We just have an idea. I'm joined today by Amanda Hill. Thanks for being here, Amanda.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for having me. And thanks for responding to my Facebook message that said, I need to talk about this.
Well, and listeners, I think y'all know I'm still like one of the worst communicators sometimes, and also a decent communicator sometimes, but like also pretty bad. She messaged me because she's had a question, like friend to friend question. We just talked about a different thing that you helped me with our waterline stuff, and sometimes I forget that people just want to talk and don't want to like record podcasts all the time. And so I'm like, yeah, when do you want to record? She's like, can we just okay. So anyways, so this may or may not make it to the airwaves. You might hear this, you might not. But Amanda, let's walk through your thoughts and your question.
Okay, so Andrew, this is something that's been on my brain for a while. And then Josie made a comment on her Fast Fact on Monday, so whenever this airs, but about letting some hygienists getting a stake in a practice. And it really then brought this entire thought process I've been having around compensation for hygiene. And there's a part of me that wonders if the way that the compensation model is currently traditionally structured within dental hygiene is setting hygiene up or setting dentistry up, maybe offices up for failure. And that stems from a lot of things, like the whole conversation. I mean, how often, Andrew, do you see on Facebook, like, my patient canceled and my doctor said I had to clock out?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's been a problem for how many decades now, right? We've been talking about the same problem over and over again.
And over and over again. So it's funny because I feel like sometimes dentistry, like, wants, has its cake and wants to eat it too, however that works. But I want to treat you, hygienist, as an hourly employee, but I also want you to be a loyal healthcare provider for our practice. And so I want to treat you one way, but I want you to act another way.
Yeah. So, okay, this is fascinating that you say this. First of all, this is not the first time Josie has triggered somewhat of not a controversial stance, but like a bigger conversation about something that she just innocuously
says. She's a
smart
woman, man.
She is so good.
Yeah.
But I think there's lots of things, because I think hygienists also want our cake and eat it too. Want to have our cake and eat it too. Whatever your phrase was that you said.
I think that's it.
Because we also don't want to have the responsibility, but yet we do want the responsibility. But then when it's our personality type doesn't align with the type of practice that we're in, then we're like, no, but just kidding. I'm an hourly employee. You can't make me do these things, So
Right.
It goes both ways. And I think
It does.
I would say, to answer your question, yes, our compensation model that we've had historically for forever is setting us all up for failure in all of the ways. It does limit our ability of kind of taking ownership, no pun intended, to the episode that Josie did, but taking ownership of like our operatory, of our part in the practice, because we are just an hourly employee that can be fired at any time, that has all the stuff. Whereas there's also associate doctors who are kind of in a similar boat as us, but have different protections, right? Like if you think about the associate doctors, they're not being asked to clock out if their patient doesn't show up, right? They're on a compensation-based model. So they'll say 35% of revenue after adjustments, and there's some other considerations, lab fees and all that, but we don't need to talk about all that. But it's interesting that, they're not asked to do that. They're expected to, be in the office all the time. They are treated as equals with the doctor that they're the owner doctor. It's a different perception, right? And I think part of it stems from education. Part of it stems from the decades long battles of hygiene versus doctor problems. But I think you're onto something, though. I think the pay structure does do something in someone's brain. And similarly, assistants are in the same boat, right? Like, okay, well, assistants only make, $15 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever they make in their region. I don't know. This is interesting, but long story short, yes, we're failing this. aspect of it. Have you worked on with a compensation model for you before?
So, I have worked on a model, a bonus structure model, and it was actually a whole team bonus.
Okay.
And so I actually was on salary, which was nice. I liked that as, that I knew whether patients canceled or didn't cancel or I ended the day early. But if I went long, I wasn't like I was getting more money. So I was on salary, but then we had a monthly bonus. So if the office hit, a certain threshold number, we would be bonused. And that was, thousands of dollars a month that often ended up in our paycheck. And 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 so that was, I for me, really motivating to, maybe squeeze in those sealants that you're like, "Oh, I'm kinda tired." Like, "I know I have 20 minutes," but like, I'll do them.
No, you're right. So let's dive down this little rabbit hole for a minute. How many people do you know have ever had salary as a hygienist? Because I actually had that also one time too. I pitched to my boss. I'm like, look, I will be here, all of these hours, no matter what. I just don't want to deal with this bull crap of clocking in and clocking out.
Right. And not many. I don't think so, and it was something out of hygiene school. It was funny, we learned how to write a job contract in one of our classes in hygiene school.
They don't offer that anymore, but
I
yeah,
know,
it's
yeah.
nice.
And so I went in, this was my first job out of hygiene school. I went in to this doctor with a job contract, and he looked at this and
Interesting.
he was so impressed by this job contract. He's like,
Yeah.
"This is amazing." And it was great because we really spelled out all of those things that you see on Facebook where everybody says, "Oh, well, go to your manual." What
Yeah.
manual?
Yeah,
Where's the
exactly.
manual? Right? So we had kind of this conversation around those things, and it really it worked out really well for me. Now, I have had other jobs where I have been hourly and, just kinda come and go and whatever and get, called off and be like, "Hey, don't come in till 10." And you're like, "Okay." But thankfully, I haven't at that point, I wasn't the breadwinner of the family, so it didn't stress
Sure.
me out. But, but when you really need that, that is super stressful. This is the funny thing is, Andrew, where part of this made me go was my oldest kid, she's 25. And recently, she's had her job now at this company that she's been with for 2 years, and this past summer, she hit a bumpy part in her job. She and her supervisor weren't getting along, things weren't good, so she really started to think about leaving, and she's like, "Well, I wanna stay till the end of August because that's when I'm vested in my 401k."
Yeah.
And so the end of August comes, and you know what? Things are better. Like, the issue that she had with her supervisor has worked itself out, and she's like, "You know what? Never mind, I'm good."
Mhm. Mhm.
And it got me like, this is why I kinda came back to hygiene where, like, you have that moment where things are bad. Like, you have bad days at work, right? But if there's something else that's keeping you from being like, "Forget it, I'm going down the road," are you more likely for retention from a pay structure? Are you
Ugh.
more likely to have, then be able to keep employees longer because there's something other than I'm happy every day keeping them at work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you're onto something really good because I think the compensation model of and even just the binary of hourly versus percentage, that's wrong also, right? So I think you touched on something when it's like, oh, well, maybe we have a salary option plus team bonus, but also salary option plus procedure bonus, right? So if you do a sealant, you get $2 of it or something like that. Something that's gonna make, oh, I'm sorry, I can make an extra $10 this hour if I just do these couple of things. Oh, I'm gonna do it. Because I also want to say though that there's a lot of hygienists that are not motivated by money.
Right. And that is me. I am not motivated by money.
So what would if in any of these scenarios where compensation was helping to kind of like, tether you into this office, are you doing it so that your team members then get the bonus? Like why are you motivated then by having a different other than hourly compensation base?
Part of it was because I knew that my coworkers really needed bonus. And so I'd be like, "Okay, I'm gonna work a little harder." And I felt like, particularly when it was team bonus, and I in fact recently saw somebody on Facebook really talk down team bonus. But when it's a team that's really working together that, I really think that everybody pitches in for each other. Like, you don't have the whole, like, when you run late on that last patient of the day and all of a sudden you realize you're alone in the office, like, that didn't happen because
Mm,
everybody was kinda, helping out and was a little more team structured. But
yeah.
since I'm not super I would say I'm not motivated by money, but it's really the bonuses were pretty cool, I gotta
Oh,
say.
yeah.
Like, it was just this like, "Woo, hey, like, I can do something with that," right? And I like that, but it's interesting, even with, my oldest and that 401k, like, okay, that's future projection. Like, oh, okay, that kinda makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
like, probably at least push it out until the end of August kinda thing, as opposed to just because I feel like nowadays, like, there's hygienists out there that are so like, "Well, I'll just quit and get another one." Okay, because we can kinda do that right now.
And I think especially you have a point going back to the hourly thing. I feel like that happens more with hourly
Right.
hygienists and or and hopefully people don't get, like, kind of frustrated about this, but if you don't understand your DSO, like if you work in a group practice or large group practice and you're like, okay, well, so and so, company A is offering 30% at this rate or blah, blah, blah. And these are the things that are included in my production. And then company B is doing basically a similar thing. Plus you get, health and 401k and all these things at all these different places. A and B are essentially the same at that point. There's got to be something else that we could do, right? There's got to be
Yeah.
something more to keep people from jumping around. And I think,
Healthcare is a big one. That was a big motivator for me was healthcare. I just remembered that. I forgot about that.
which is, and I haven't been in private practice in 15 years. So I kind of sometimes forget that that's just not something that always happens no matter where you're at. Because I even feel like a lot of private practices are doing that nowadays, adding that in. But
Yeah, I
I really,
recently talked to an assistant who's not super happy in her job, but she got offered another job down the street, but they don't offer healthcare. She's like, "I can't leave."
yeah, yeah. So is that a good thing or a bad thing to tether people because of those types of motivations? Are they sour now? Like, are they
No, she's
ruining
not
the
sour, and
group?
and
Well, not
actually, I
her, but
I
like,
hope
that idea.
I hope it will be similar to my oldest kid, like, whatever is making you unhappy right now, then, eh, you know, you now have to actually be a grown up and hit that, whatever it is, have that hard conversation that often I mean, this is totally me, like, I am a conflict avoidance up a storm,
Hmm.
but, if she wants to remain fulfilled and happy, she now needs to have the conversation as opposed to, "Ooh, that was hard," and leave, um, to make things better for herself because she needs to stay.
How do you feel about, like, retention bonuses? That was huge during the pandemic. It's kind of
Yeah.
fallen off a little bit since.
I think it's an interesting idea. I love these, like, I sometimes see, like, on the dentist Facebook chats about, like, I think I've seen one dentist say that he gives $1,000 every year you're there. So on
Now
your
is that is like a holiday end of year bonus thing? Is
No,
that what
on your
it is?
year anniversary, you get
Interesting.
you get $1,000 for every year you've been at the practice.
Can you imagine, like, every year that doctor I mean, if you keep your team for 20 years, like, you are paying out, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars if you have a decent sized team.
Right? But how much money do you lose? I mean, I don't know the stat off the top of my head, I should have Googled it beforehand, but how much money does it cost to retrain a team,
That's
a
an
team
interesting
member?
thing because I always push back on that,
Yeah? Okay.
notion or that thought. I'm wrong on it. I'm 100% wrong, but I still push back on it because, like, logically, it doesn't make sense to me. Hygienist to hygienist. It is more valuable to me to kick the dead weight or kick the person to the side,
Oh, yeah.
even if they're not even a bad performer. If they're just, like, bad attitude, bad
Sure.
whatever,
Yeah.
emotional, like, drain on me or whatever, and bring in someone that is mostly as good, but it's gonna be a positive, force, willing to learn, willing to get up there. But I'm also someone who enjoys training and teaching and getting you to, like, realize your potential. Like, I'll coach you up where I think where that stat goes, where they're like, "Oh, it's more expensive to, to replace and, whatever than it is to retain." I think that's true only in, like, a situation where you as the leader are not maybe the best at development. Because you might lose a little bit in the short term, but if you're willing to invest, if you come in, Amanda, to our office, and I know your ceiling is at least where that other person is, there are non objective measurements, which I usually hate, but, like, office morale. How do you measure office morale? There's no real way to do that, right? There are other benefits that we can get by bringing in the right team person,
Oh,
even,
absolutely.
even if they're not really quite
Yes.
there yet. So I'm not so sold on that concept.
I guess
I
I'm not
guess.
saying we should keep people just to keep people, but
Oh, that's
keep
what these
you
doctors are saying nowadays, though. Haven't
Oh,
you seen
yeah,
those?
no, no,
Right?
because actually that's gonna that's gonna make things worse for you, because that'll have a trickle down effect. But no, I mean, but keeping good workers, like my last clinical practice, they recently sold. He retired, and part of the deal was whoever was still there actually got a percentage of the sale. Like, so who would stay through that whole sale process, and so they all did, like, so they're like, "Okay, then I'll stay through the sale process because, that's bumpy and that's yucky," but, so that was like a nice little bonus and a thank you for saying, staying with the practice.
So you look at that situation though, like the doctor, the seller, though, knew their people. And right. I guess this is, I mean, not, we're getting really kind of philosophical on a lot of things here this morning. This is early, by the way. Monday morning, 9 a.m. is when we're recording this. It's interesting because, like, if you, the whole retention thing, just talk to your people, right? If it
Right.
really is about money, make it about money. If it's not about money, make it about something else.
Yeah.
If you need them to do something, just have a conversation with them. I'm wondering if this is actually just obvious. I'm not wondering, it's the truth. Dental professionals are not as good at communication as they think that they are.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Like, oh, our patient communication is amazing. We can tell our patients everything. Yeah, false. I mean, we're terrible, especially with each other, right? Like, if you want to retain somebody and you're going through like a merger or whatever, how great was this doctor to be like, you know what? I'm going to give you guys have been with me for a bit. I'm going to reward you for not just the hard work of staying through the merger, but all the stuff you helped me build together. We're going to
Yeah.
do that. Just hang in there with me. Don't
Yeah.
leave me. We got you.
Right.
It's pretty good.
I mean, and don't, it just, you feel value and you feel appreciation. And, appreciation is like my total love language. Like, I remember one time I had a dentist. I was only working there a day a week, but I had gone kind of above and beyond. I was revamping our medical history because I didn't like it. And so, at home I was working on the medical history, whatever. And anyway, and he wrote me a handwritten note and mailed it to my house and said,
Wow.
I see what you're doing and I really thank you for, all that you're putting into the practice. And so this was no money at all. This was just a handwritten note. And, I gotta tell you, it made me then wanna do the next thing that I wanted to fix in the office. So the next thing that I saw was because I felt valued and appreciated. And I think maybe when we talk compensation, when it's this pick and choose, like, hourly, like, "Oh, you're working. Oh, you're not seeing patients. You're not valuable. Oh, you're valuable. No, you're not valuable." I think it comes down to feeling valued and appreciated and worthy. And so what does that look like from a compensation model, right?
I mean, so let's tell a little story. So I grew up broke. I think that's been documented. And when I broke, like, we had no money. Like, I couldn't, like, I remember we didn't play sports, like, and participate in certain sports because we didn't have the $5 to go, on our away trip kind of
Well,
stuff.
I wanna give baby Andrew $5 right now.
I know. Well, the thing is, I remember growing up younger and feeling like we had enough money until we moved up to Washington, which is, I think, when I was about 9 or 10. And then, like, pretty much throughout until I was an adult, like, we just didn't have any money. Like, it's always, that's the way it always felt. Now, whether that's true, I don't know. I didn't see the P&Ls in my parents' house. They didn't show me those
P&Ls.
types of things. But I just,
Not everybody does
that's,
that at home, P&Ls, just
no,
so you
no
know,
one does
Andrew.
that. But it just, that's the way it kind of always felt. And I'm just like, and like, we never had the nice cars, we never had the nice house, we never had the nice anythings. And my brother and I, like, we both, like, kind of grew up in this way. And, like, it was, both of my parents kind of, like, gently tried to counsel us, like, hey, make sure you're kind of not in the same situation, but not without saying it like that. But, like, and so I was always someone who was like, you know what? I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be all of these things. I'm going to just, like, I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to, whatever. And my self-worth throughout my whole entire life has been tied to money. And I think that's probably part of the hygienist problem. I think that a lot of times when we look at a dollar amount, especially when we're involved in, like, Facebook groups that are national, that maybe are not specific to exactly our area, and we see that such and such a state is getting $20 more an hour, or such and such a big city is getting, $40 more an hour. We look at that and say, we're doing the same thing that they're doing, and we're just not valued. No one likes us. No one, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like a pity party. And that's just, that can't be the case. Like I think that somehow we need to figure out how to emotionally detach, and it's still something I'm struggling with. I think, the last couple of years have been really interesting for me because it's like, well, not to get to like weird soapbox, whatever, but like I hit all of the things that little baby Andrew thought he was going to try and hit too early in life, right? Which is great, a great problem to have. But it's like, now what? Because I've exceeded everything that I've ever seen in my entire life with my family, like my background. We've exceeded all of that. So I hit all my goals. Like, now what's next? How do I find value in myself as a person that's not attached to this monetary like dream that I was chasing, so that hopefully I'd have it by the time I was 75 or 80 and could retire and do all the stuff, right? 'Cause that's when people retire in my family, is 75 and 80, not 60 or 65 or whatever the early-ish retirement is. And I don't know how to do that for hygienists, but I think that that is one thing that definitely needs to stop. This comparing apples to apples, the feeling that if someone in your office is getting $42 an hour and you're getting $43 an hour, you're not better than they are, and they're not worse than you are, but you also think that you are, or something. I don't
Right.
know.
Um, and even understanding, I and maybe many of us, myself included, don't even understand money, like, don't even understand that those other benefits you're getting and how much that plays in to to, that dollar amount an hour. But, I mean, there's a lot that goes into just feeling good about where you work.
I think as a hygienist, and one of the reasons why I love DSO so much is because of the advanced metrics, right? It has nothing to do with your money, but it actually exactly does. So when we go into these practices, so one of the things I'm building out right now is it's like a dashboard for, what the hygienist at the offices are going to look at and see if they're kind of in line with the standard of care. The standard of care, I just did a whole tipsode on this, but it's like it's
I
kind of
loved
a
it, by the
hard.
way, it was really good.
Thank you. It's hard though, right? Because like the standard of care, depending on who you ask on the internet, is going to change, but it doesn't really have to change. So you have to look at these particular organizations who really are the standard bearers for the standard, right? And there are metrics that we can look at that we can evaluate our own quote unquote worth, that I think that is better than our dollarly wage, whatever I was trying to
Dollarly.
say there.
I like
Our
that.
dollarly wage, or our, even if we're on a compensation model that is from production. I think that we need to be looking at these numbers, because it's like, let's look at the number of patients that we saw and how many of them receive sealants. Well, we know our decay rates are crazy in the US. We believe in sealants as healthcare providers, yet you did zero. So make that make sense to me. And I would love if we could, and even if you're still getting paid hourly or whatever, like deploy these types of advanced metrics into every office everywhere. Perio percentage is like the low hanging fruit.
Right.
That is, we, I have seen, okay, not any of the offices I've ever worked at. I'll be very clear about that. That like, I have seen offices like they got sent to me. They're like, hey, we're at 3% perio. We're at 10% perio in our office. And there is a time and a place for that. Pediatric office, for instance, might only have 1% perio. And that's okay. If you're only seeing college kids, okay, well, it might be a very, like
Oh,
there
no,
are
they got
times
some
and places.
gingivitis, I'm just saying.
Yeah, gingivitis, right? Like it's so insane. Like, how are we having such low numbers like across the board? And everyone thinks that they're a unique, unicorn. And so if let's say in, where's Annie at? Is she in Tucson? I think she's in
She's in
Tucson, or
Flagstaff.
Flagstaff. Thank you. So let's say like in Annie's area, just because she's not on this episode and I want to pick on her a little bit. Every office in Flagstaff used the exact same metrics, and we had a dashboard that everyone could see. Wouldn't that calibrate us as hygienists a little bit more and say, hey, that's weird that Andrew is the only hygienist that's doing 10% perio, and then everyone else is doing 32% perio.
Right.
What's Andrew not doing? Like having a little bit of self-reflection. Or if I'm in the standard, conversely, if I want to feel value, oh, I'm at 32%. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing what everyone else is doing. I want to keep getting better in these other areas. So maybe I'll reach out to Amanda and say, Amanda, how did you get here? Because I want to deliver better care for my patients.
Yeah, I just had this light bulb moment, Andrew. By seeing that, by seeing some of those metrics, by going, "Okay, this is where I am and this is what I'm striving for." Oh my gosh, like, you aren't just Groundhog Daying cleaning teeth. Like, it's like
Mm,
I have this aura ring. right? And so this, and every day I look at my readiness score, and I can look at those metrics and it'll tell me like what my resilience is and all this kind of stuff. And so I know, like, I see metrics about myself every day, and I know that like that second glass of wine last night was a bad idea because look at my heart rate, like it never lower. And so it gives me some things to really start to understand myself and my body and make good health decisions. But seeing that metrics, which if you had asked me before about, like, if I liked KPIs and goals, I'd be like, "No, I treat my patients the way that I exactly what they need, and I don't need those numbers because 'cause you're not gonna make me sell dentistry," and darn it if I haven't gotten kicked off my high horse from that one because I'm wrong. I was wrong. Um, really seeing some of those numbers and understanding like, okay, this is where I am. Okay, this is where, the industry averages or this is maybe where I should be. It just helps me achieve something.
Yeah, health for your patients.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole goal.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.